Defense against infectious disease, part 1. Okay, so in this clip we're going to be learning all about different microorganisms and how they affect our body and how we defend ourselves against it. We're only going to do the basic first line of defense and a little bit of work on white blood cells. Okay, so when we talk about microorganisms, there are two main types of microorganisms that we usually talk about. So the first one is bacteria, and actually I'm just going to change the colour of my pen. So we've got bacteria, and we have viruses. Now, it's a common misconception that both bacteria and viruses are harmful to us. Well, in actual fact, we have bacteria in our body and it's beneficial. It's something that we actually need. We have something called good bacteria. Some of you will have heard about Yakult and those types of drinks where they actually help you. Okay, and we come into contact with lots and lots of different viruses, but we're not constantly ill. Okay, so they're not all harmful to us. So what we need to look at in particular then are pathogens. Now, a pathogen is a microorganism that will cause us to become ill. Okay, it's something it carries a disease. It's something that will definitely make us ill. Now, there are bacteria and viruses that do make us ill, and we're going to look at how they do that and what happens when they get inside of our body. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is a bacteria. And what you can see on the board is a very crude drawing that I've done before. Okay, so they kind of look like this. They've got a bit of a tail that you can see over here, and there it is, the tail's there, and in the centre of them they don't have a nucleus like we do. They've got a very simplified form of DNA. Right, but we don't need to talk about that right now. Now, bacteria are actually really small, so on there it looks absolutely giant. I wouldn't like to think of that being inside my body. Alright, it's nearly as big as me. But if we put it in relation to an animal cell, okay, so this is about a quarter of an animal cell. You can see the nucleus just here. Okay, it actually is about 1/100th of the size of an animal cell. Now, once they get inside your body, what they can do is they can reproduce really quickly. Alright, while they're in your body, they work in several different ways. They give off chemicals which make you ill, and we're going to look at what those chemicals are. Okay, so you can see that they've reproduced quite a lot and quite quickly, and they also damage your cells. Alright, and that's how they make you feel ill. Now, the next one we're going to look at is a virus. So a virus looks like this. Looks a little bit like a spider, I think, or it looks a little bit like some nano spider. Looks giant there. It's not that big in real life. It's actually really small. It's actually much smaller than that. You remember the bacteria that we looked at, and I said it was 1/100th of the size of an animal cell. Okay, well, a virus is about the 100th of the size of a bacteria, so you can imagine just how small they are. Now, viruses work in a very clever way. So bacteria, we said, they invade your body, they're in your blood, and they're basically going around giving off toxins and making you ill. Well, viruses act they are much more clever in how they act. So the virus actually invades your body cell. Now, because it's inside your body cell, it's hidden, it's disguised, and once it gets inside that body cell, it ends up replicating, and it does it quite quickly. And it does it until we get to the point that it's so full of this virus that the cell bursts. And when that cell bursts, and those viruses are all free to go out and then infect other cells. Now, once they've replicated and they've gone out and they've burst this cell, it's the cell damage that actually makes you feel ill. You've got to think that that virus is inside you, bursting your cells, okay, and it's the bursting of the cells that will make you feel ill. So how do we stop it? How do we not end up just one great big load of burst cells? Well, our body's got quite a clever defence system. Our first line of defence for our body is all on the exterior. So we have tears, we have eyebrows, we have eyelashes, all of which trap dirt. You know what it's like if you get something in your eyes will water and it'll try to flush it out. Okay, it's also got something called lysozymes in there, but we're not going to cover that just now. Also, in your airways, you've got, on your respiratory tract, you've got all these tiny little hairs called cilia, and there's also mucus in there, and they basically stop a lot of the nasty stuff getting into your body. You've got stomach acid, right, and you have your skin. Your skin's a major line of defence, and actually it's when that gets damaged that you tend to be most at risk as well, so you can get an infection. So you're told if you cut yourself you have to keep it clean, okay, because what can happen is the bacteria or the virus can get into you quite easily. And when you do get a cut, what should happen is you have these things called platelets, so you can see a few of them. There's one there, you can see that, and you've got an activated platelet up there. And what they do is they cause your blood to clot. So some people don't have these platelets or don't have a high amount of them, and they'll continue to bleed. Their blood fails to clot. Well, you need your blood to clot so that you don't lose all your blood and die. It's never a good thing, okay? And it stops an infection getting in. You can see that that hole has now been plugged, right? So, sorry about that. What happens if it does get inside? Well, inside your body you have these things called white blood cells, and you can see them here. They're these bigger cells, the purpley stained ones. The other ones are red blood cells, right? But these bigger ones are your white blood cells, and they basically guard your body. They wander around your body, a little bit like a little army, out patrolling, looking for anything that shouldn't be there. If they find something that shouldn't be there, what they'll do is they'll actually chase it down, and you can see clips on this if you go and look for them, and you actually see the white blood cell chase down whatever foreign body is inside you, so whatever pathogen is inside you, and they will engulf them, and they'll digest them, and they'll literally break them down, and they'll keep any of the good stuff, and they just eliminate, so remove from themselves any of the stuff that just needs to be gotten rid of. Now, the engulf and digest part of it doesn't always work. It's not perfect. It's a good first line of defence, but sometimes we need to be a little bit more sophisticated than that. So here's how we become more sophisticated. Okay, so this is down to me and my drawing now. So you remember that bacteria that I drew, that simple bacteria? Well, I'm going to draw one that's even simpler now. Well, I did miss something off that bacteria. So, nice simple bacteria. Okay, on the outside, what I missed was the fact that it has these things called antigens. Okay, and these antigens are there, and they give off the chemicals. So I said before, hopefully you remember, that they give off chemicals, and these chemicals make you ill. Right. So what the white blood cells do to protect us against that is they make antibodies. So just so we know, let's just label this. Okay, so this is an antigen. Alright, and they give off these poisonous chemicals that make us ill. So what we have to counteract that are our white blood cells. So let's just draw a really simple cell. Alright, and what they do for us is they produce antibodies. Now, in this case, our antibodies are going to end up looking a little bit like Pac-Man. Okay, not intentionally, but I do think they're quite cute. Alright, and what these Pac-Men actually do is they go and they cover, oh, that was a little bit rubbish, never mind, the antigen. And when they cover the antigen, what's quite cool is it stops that chemical being released. So you can already see, let's go on and get rid of these chemicals that have been released, that it's already releasing considerably less chemicals than it was before. So that continues. Alright, let's carry on drawing them. Draw them a bit faster until it's totally covered, and what you see happening is it actually starts to get quite clumpy, and they cause them to stick together. So not only does it stop them from releasing these chemicals, causes these chemicals to stick, sorry, these bacteria to stick together. So that one's now fully covered, so it's no longer releasing any poisons, any chemicals that are going to make us ill. Come on. Alright. And then because it's all stuck together like that and it ends up really sticky, the white blood cell comes along, engulfs it and digests it. Alright, so that's how we get rid of bacteria. Now, what we can also have being produced is something called toxins. So bacteria don't only, there are different types of bacteria, I'm sure you're aware of that. So let's just draw another really simple bacteria. Okay, so this bacteria is releasing toxins. So let's just say that these are the toxins that it's released. Right, and these toxins are attacking you. So for want of a better way of doing it, what it does is it releases, in fact we'll change that, it releases an antitoxin and it basically just neutralises it. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. Okay, so we've covered quite a bit. We've covered our first line of defence. We've talked about the fact that we are able to produce something called antibodies. We have also looked at our different lines of defence. Okay, just as a reminder, these were toxins and these ones were antitoxins. Right. So hopefully you have quite a good idea, and that's of how our body defends itself, and that's the end of this clip.